Thank you for having me. I enjoy being here, and my name, of course, is Sean McCafferty. I'm obviously a practicing ophthalmologist, but I'm also an accomplished mechanical and optical engineer, too, as well. I studied under Cynthia Roberts and Jim Schwegerling. Glaucoma is the leading cause of preventable blindness here in the United States, affecting 3.3 million Americans, and this translates to 80 million people worldwide. Yet half of these people remain undiagnosed. The standard of care for measuring IOP has been, during our careers and lifetimes, Goldmann applanation tonometry. The exploding U.S. glaucoma market is presently $8.1 billion in new drugs, new devices, implants, MIGs, etc. Still, the only leading indicator for glaucoma is IOP. Still, the only metric that we have to treat it is lowering the IOP. And still, in over half a century, the only way, the standard of care for treating glaucoma is measuring that lowered IOP with Goldmann applanation tonometry. CAT's tonometer is positioning itself as being the leading cog in the glaucoma market revolution that presently is underway in both the diagnosis and treatment. Practitioners recognize universally that there are significant errors in Goldmann applanation tonometry, so much so that every 50 out of 100 patients will have an error significant enough that it potentially could lead to blindness. The CAT's tonometer solution reduces this pool of 50 out of every 100 patients down to 3 out of 100 patients, or it is a 94% improved IOP accuracy in the at-risk patient pool. The CAT's tonometer technology is attested to by 7 peer-reviewed journal articles, latest in the American Journal of Ophthalmology and the BJO. We also have an NIH Phase 1 grant study that looked at intracameral comparisons too as well. Just recently we were awarded a $1.1 million NIH Phase 2 grant for commercialization. CAT stands for Correcting Applanation Tonometry Surface. Its patented concave convex surface minimizes significantly the errors due to corneal biomechanics and corneal tear film, all simultaneously. It was an iterative solution using parametric linear models to be able to come up with an optimized design. We have IP, international IP, in design and utility patents, both on its structure and its method. The CAT's disposable design uses the exact same injection molds, although it has a much easier utility of use than the existing legacy product, as you can use a single hand use on this, and it greatly reduces our cost because we don't have 2 different product lines. The aesthetic appeal of CATs, shown in the upper left, is indicative of its 94% improved accuracy, but even equally as efficacious are its improved function and utility in the clinic. It has a centration function where you know that the tonometer is centered on the cornea. It also the flange works as a light pipe so that the mires are much brighter. The existing legacy prism is the same in its function and appearance as it was designed in 1957. The adoption of CATs is simply a change out of the existing prism. All you do is you take off the Goldmann prism, you put on the CAT's prism, and everything with patient throughput, interpretation remains exactly the same. So why, as a clinician, would I adopt CATs? Well, there's the 94% improved accuracy, but probably equally so is the improved function and utility in the clinic. This is attested to by 7 peer-reviewed journal articles, and there's no change in clinical practice and no increased cost. And this is universal to all patient populations worldwide. CATs is simply a replacement part for the existing Goldmann prism, so its true competition is the Goldmann tonometer prism. However, there are other devices out there which have been purported as supplanting Goldmann. They have not done so thus far. There are reasons why, and this is how CATs is able to overcome those. The first is price point. These devices cost tens of thousands of dollars. The CAT's tonometer prism costs essentially the same price as the existing prism, which people are replacing on a regular basis anyway. In addition, these devices require ancillary staff training and understanding, interpreting the results, and they add clinic time. The CAT's tonometer prism uses the exact same method and training that we were all taught in school. Our business model incorporates a low cost of customer acquisition. We sell cats at a significantly increased discount to the distributors, the same distributors that sell to the existing legacy product. They then sell to the retail to the ophthalmic practices. I apologize, this didn't come through entirely well. These distributors all have telephonic sales, online sales, and they have a regular presence at conferences such as this. They are universally excited about cats. We have several contracted, and they are excited because they see this as a first-of-a-kind innovation. They see this as a lead-in to their product lines. They see this as a door opener. The addressable prism market in reusable and disposable prisms is $54 million per year. Our primary market strategy is a rapid market adoption. Therefore, we're coming in at a price point only slightly at a slight value premium above the existing legacy product. We feel very confident that we are in positive cash flow by year 2. This is because we have an 88% profit margin based upon contracted costs of goods sold. In addition, we don't have to ramp up our sales team as we're going through distributors. And lastly, we're already in a contract manufacturer, so our ability to be able to ramp to increased volume is certainly attainable. We're going to achieve this conversion curve by creating clinician awareness, a buzz about cats in its utility and its function and its improved accuracy, which will allow the distributor to close the sale. We will do this by targeted research, which is presented in peer-reviewed journal articles and presented by our key opinion leaders. We have online campaigns, press releases, and media kits for the press and our distributors. In addition, we'll have targeted ads directly to the practitioners. All of this will create a buzz and awareness about cats so that when price is not an issue and they're looking to replace or get new equipment, they will go with cats. And this will allow the distributor to easily close a sale, especially with an added incentive of greater profitability. We have already completed quite a bit. We have FDA clearance that included 173 randomized patient clinical trial. Our engineering is complete. We have IP issued. We will be in sales within the next 2 months. The use of proceeds of $1 million shown across the bottom, we will take the reusable, obtain our CE mark, and begin sales in Europe. Then we'll ramp up our manufacturing, get FDA approval for the disposable product, and begin sales in the United States. Subsequent to that, we will take the disposable product over into Europe. And lastly, we do have 2 different methods that we can obtain a CPT code reimbursement. This is not necessary for our market model, but it does increase the market from $54 million a year to $94 million a year. Our team is top-notch, includes several KOLs, including John Berdahl, Nathan Radcliffe, and Jim Schwegerling. Of note, we also have Scott Heck. He's a 25-year veteran of Vice President of Ophthalmic Distribution who leads our sales team. So why invest in cats? It's a $1 million investment for a $7 million valuation. We're looking at an early exit, 2 years or less, at a 4x multiple. This is the same as a 10-year, 20x. We feel very confident in our contracted cost of goods sold, that we have a very high profit margin, and that we're already in substantive discussions with several strategic partners as far as our exit. Thank you, and I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. All right, well, since Jim Mazo is going to invest my money, I'm very anxious to hear what Jim has to say about this presentation.
Again, congratulations on making the final 3, and a couple quick points. First off, I like I'm a big razor blade model, and so I like that. When I first was looking at this, my big question was, is this better for non-U.S. markets than U.S. markets? Because of the accessibility to patients, the minimum amount of clinics that are available. But I saw that was not a route. I'm assuming you took that route simply because of a higher valuation in the U.S. market? Would that be, is that a...
The question was that we didn't see that the rest of world market was that large. Is that what your question was?
Yeah, most people, it's smart to go U.S. simply because of market size and capability, but this might have accessibility outside the U.S. because of, the patient, not that many physicians, et cetera.
I agree with that entirely. As a matter of fact, our primary, secondary, and even tertiary market research indicates that the rest of the world might be huge. Europe is huge too. And the market is actually somewhat larger in the European market because they're mostly on disposable. So it certainly has been a larger market elsewhere. But our primary strategy, of course, was to start in the United States.
And then the only other one, and I'll turn to the rest, your price. What was the concept behind that price? And I'm assuming that was a total price including the reusable?
Well, our market strategy, we wanted to have a rapid market adoption. We wanted this to penetrate the market very quickly. We didn't want to come and undercut the existing products because you wanted to have some perception of value premium. So we increased it slightly above the legacy product and what it was selling at, and we're about 10% over. So that's where our market strategy sat.
And that price was to the doctor?
That was the price to the doctor, not to the distributor. That is correct.
Yeah, so you'd have to take 35% off of that, and so, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bill?
Nicely done. How protectable is the design and the idea?
All of the anytime that all of the IP that had come back, they saw it as remarkably novel. They'd never seen a new surface like that. Really, the IP centers around the surface, and nobody had come up with any type of design in which they modified the clear aperture tonometry surface on there. It's entirely novel. So we see a pretty clear pathway to getting IP. Through on this too, and we have design patents on it already issued, and there's several utility patents going through PCT and in the United States as well.
How many patients has it been used on?
I would assume somewhere about 1,000.
In patient experience?
They're unaware that there's any difference.
Got it. And physician or technician experience?
We have trialed it in many clinics. I don't know the exact number right now, but universally they see it as easily adoptable. They put it on, and they don't even need any instruction whatsoever. They automatically center it. It's usable instantly.
Got it. Thanks.
So a couple thoughts. First of all, you said it's better than Goldman applanation tonometry. How much better?
Well, if you look at a standard population curve in which you have about 30% of the people or more, actually upwards of 50%, falling in plus or minus 2 millimeters of mercury. Several studies out there say that plus or minus 2 millimeters of mercury could change the clinician's decision-making process. So if we use that as a limit, and you reduce that number of patients by decreasing the sensitivity to CCT, corneal rigidity, corneal tear film, all of those simultaneously, about 97% of the patients will be within that limit of plus or minus 2 millimeters of mercury, as opposed to several of them, upwards of 50%, being outside of that limit. So that's really where the better comes in.
So I'll be the customer. I and my colleagues that are going to buy this, whether it's from a strategic or a distributor, and so I think a little more, you're going to have to convince me that it's a clinically meaningfully more accurate measurement device, and I didn't quite see data that convinced me that yet, and so I think you need to present it a little bit differently, maybe plus standard deviation or those kinds of presentations. I guess you presented the percentage that are within 2 diopters, but maybe a little bit more, because I'm just saying I'm not yet, completely convinced. And so I think it's just a different way of crunching your data, maybe, to present it a little bit differently. That's my first, comment. And then the other one is that, and I'm willing to be wrong here, but I think your 5th year revenues were $7 million. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so 2 thoughts on that, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but most major strategics aren't going to be interested in that revenue model, and most major strategics don't want to be a distributor. And so to some extent, this, what this looks like to me, and it still can be a good one, is a family business or a business that a small instrument company like MST or someone like that might be interested in. So I would be directing you, and maybe Jim if we have time to make a comment, but I don't know if Zeiss is interested in products that reach $7 million revenue streams in 5 years. So,
Can I answer some of those questions?
yeah, sure.
Number one, we do have the 7 peer-reviewed journal articles. Those certainly are there, but that's really not how this thing sells. I've found that when people use this in the clinic and they have a patient that they've been looking at, their pressure's 10, and they have a thin cornea and they suspect that it's higher, they'll measure it with this and they'll find out it's actually 15. That's really what sells this. That's what sells the idea on it. And secondly, I think that the other question that you had was on.
Well, I mean, is it a large enough revenue?
Large enough revenue.
And major strategic, and
absolutely.
I don't know if a distribution opportunity would interest the major strategic.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we do have the distributors under contract. They certainly are interested. The strategics are interested. They're already talking to us. We have several of them, which we're in present discussions right now. And really, it's not so much the total revenue that you're looking at, but it's the EBITDA. Basically, the profitability on this is well in excess of 80%. And maybe not very large companies would look at something of this size, but certainly medium-sized companies might be interested in adding to their revenue stream and their high profitability.
I mean, Dick asked the question, Jim, would a company like Zeiss be interested?
You're putting me on the spot right here, right now. Not based on that size of market.
What if it differentiated a slit lamp?
I'm sorry?
What if it differentiated a slit lamp and made it more special than the rest?
That wasn't in the presentation.
I'm just saying that tonometer with that slit lamp could be a powerful combination as a differentiator. You know? So, Guy, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess very related to that, to the revenue. Have you thought about selling that as a premium product? When you go think about the pricing, I mean, this is a premium product, yet you sell it at the same price as what you're replacing. And when you think about reimbursement, it's always better to start with a higher price. You can always lower the price. You can never bring it back up.
We definitely considered that, and we looked at coming in at a higher price, and we looked at coming in at a higher price and ratcheting it down. But again, really, our primary strategy is to exit. So we want a rapid market adoption. Now, a strategic can set the price wherever they want, and if it were to be the standard of care, obviously they could at that point in time and increase the profitability substantially. But you need